Like to say, thanks to everybody that voted for our guys. If you're on here, appreciate it. Herb, Petty, Primo, Shaq. I think those guys deserved it. I think they've worked really hard. I mean, Herb and Petty have come in and changed the narrative of this program, along with Reese and Bruner, those seniors. And Tyler Barnes, our walk-on senior. So, couldn't be happier for this group of seniors. Petty and Herb to make first team. Those two kind of leading the way here. Shaq being second team as a sophomore. He's had an unbelievable sophomore year for us in a lot of different areas, and Primo's had a great freshman year. So thanks for you guys that voted for them. I appreciate it. As far as the Coach of the Year award goes, that typically goes to teams that win. Our guys have paved the way. It's really their program, culture that they've built. I'm here to help them, and they've allowed me to help them. So thank you to them and our players. And really, when I won this up in Buffalo, I made the statement, but I believe it's true. Like, this is really a staff award more than it is a coach. I think our staff's done an unbelievable job. Petway's been here, but he's been great for me just figuring out Alabama, having the relationship with the players. Brian came with me from Buffalo. He's done a great job. It's bringing the pieces we needed to add to what they had here. And Charlie's just his expertise on the basketball side of things, running our defense as good as he's gotten our defense has been great, and our support staff's been great. We've got really good coaches, really good players, and sometimes the head coach gets way too much notoriety, way too much attention for the small part I have in this deal. But that's that. Now we're moving to the SEC tournament. I mean, it's a brand new deal. Everybody's starting fresh. Everybody's got a chance to win it. We've put ourselves in a great spot getting the 1 seed, but all that goes out the window if you don't come ready to play on Friday morning. So, we'll be watching closely. We've done a little bit of Kentucky and Mississippi State stuff. We'll make the drive up to Nashville tonight. We'll practice up there tomorrow. We'll watch the game. We'll get prepped for whoever we got to play, and we got to come out and play a little bit better. We got that 11 o'clock start that we have not had great starts to, but I think, our guys are a little bit more locked in, focused, what we need to do to get off to a better start that early game. And, it'll be a fun 3 days. I've enjoyed the conference tournaments I've coached in thus far. Disappointed we didn't get to play last year's and excited to play this year's. I think it's a new season. I think our guys are fresh. I thought we had a great 3 days of practice here, and I think our guys mentally and physically are pretty fresh, rejuvenated, and ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Reminder, just use the raise hand function. We'll get your question. Let's start first with Cecil Hurt.
Coach, chronologically, it was 3 years ago that Javon Quinley was named a McDonald's All-American, and it's been an up and down 3 years for him. Obviously, different places and different programs. Are you starting to see, or had you seen in practice, or when did you look at it and say, yeah, I can see how that guy was an McDonald's All-American?
I saw last year while he was sitting out, to be honest with you. I mean, he does stuff. And Kyra Lewis ended up being a lottery pick. Him and Kyra had some great – there were days in practice he was better than Kyra was. And Kyra's really good. I mean, Kyra was back over All-Star break. We talked to him. He's worked out with our guys. It's great to see him. It's good to know he wants to come back to Tuscaloosa when he's on All-Star break. But, there were days where Javon was better than Kyra. So I thought those two went head-to-head fairly even for a lot of last year. So I saw it in practice last year. Now, it's one thing to do it in practice, another thing to do it in the games. I thought he had a really good fall for us, good summer, fall. And then when he got comfortable playing in the games, I mean, the first game out, I thought he had a great game out. And then, there's been a little bit of inconsistency, which is typical of a guy that hasn't played that long. And, then he had to sit out for a couple of weeks. But I think talent-wise, I mean, you're talking about pass, dribble, shoot, quickness, getting into the paint, creating offense for others. I mean, he's one of the best point guards in the country. So I think you see why he was a McDonald's All-American. Now, he needed to get better with some stuff too. I mean, defensively, he wasn't great when he got here. He's much better now. I think you guys have seen, he's staying in front of the ball better. He's making tougher plays. He's taking charges. You saw that last game. He's getting loose balls, deflections. He's bought into the whole blue-collar toughness, guarding you, and he's made us a lot better team when he's been doing that stuff.
Tony Sukalis, you're next.
Nate, when you look at Herb's stats, he's kind of different, at least offensively, than your normal player of the year, SEC player of the year. Is he emblematic of the concept you're trying to build here?
Yeah, I think Herb's like the quintessential blue-collar glue guy that we try to get everybody to do better with. And I think, to be honest with you, when we got here, and again, I hadn't coached any of these guys before. I tried to come with a clean slate, but some of what we'd heard about John Petty wasn't necessarily that way. I think Petty's bought into doing all that. I mean, you watch what Petty's done. I think, him and Herb are both two of the best two-way players, if not in the country, for sure in our league, and I think in the country. So, Herb was kind of way ahead of the gate, on the defensive side. Petty was probably more ahead of it on offense, but I think Herb's gotten a lot better offensively, Petty's gotten a lot better defensively, and they're both two of the best two-way players, around, which is why we went 16-2 in the league. I mean, when you got two seniors with that experience, that high IQ, that are playing both sides of the ball, you give yourself a chance to win every night out. But, yeah, when you look at Herb and everything he's done for the pro, I mean, he got player of the year, defensive player of the year, one of three guys in the history of the SEC, correct, to get both. He was our fourth leading scorer, and he had enough respect from coaches and media people in the league to be the fourth leading scorer and still get voted player of the year in the conference. That shows you everything else he does to impact the game, which is what we've really been trying to preach since we've got here. And I think we've got a lot of guys doing that other stuff now, and that started with him and Petty both buying into doing it.
Let's go next to Mike Rodak.
Yeah, Nate, there was a point a month or two ago where you're pretty banged up with Bruner out and Gary out, Herb, Quinley, Rojas. There was a pretty long list at one point there. Just how much have you weathered that storm at this point, and when's the last time that you were this fresh as a team?
You know what? Obviously, that section of the season you're referring to was tough. We managed to get through it with not too many losses, which speaks to our depth this year as opposed to last year, speaks to what some guys are able to do. And there's some guys that just don't miss games or practice. I mean, you look at Petty's rarely been injured. Shaq hardly ever misses a thing. We've got some really durable guys that, and Shaq wasn't shooting it well for a little while there, but he still, he had the one game, he was 1 of 9 from 3, I think, and still scored 27. I just think that we had certain guys step up when we needed to get us through that stretch. Herb finally got healthy. He's back to pretty close to 100%, and he's looking a whole lot better in practices. Javon's back healthy. The one that's still, based on the fact he had 2 knee surgeries here in the last month and a half, 2 months, Bruner still doesn't look like he's moving 100%, but he's got such a high IQ and such a high skill level that he impacts the game in so many other ways other than just his athleticism that he still helps us. But outside of Bruner, I feel like we're pretty healthy right now, and even Bruner is healthy enough to help us. So part of winning conference championships and winning, being able to make runs in March is getting to March fairly healthy, and I feel like we've been fortunate enough to do that right now. Our trainer, Clark's one of the best trainers, if not the best trainer in the country. I mean, he's does a great job. He's spent a ton of time with all these guys, getting them where they're at. And you want to be peaking come March. Well, now's the time you want to be peaking. In order to do that, you need to be healthy. You also need guys being able to practice. So we've had a full team practice, and we've got everybody fairly healthy, and I like where we're at right now.
Let's go next to Drew Carter.
Hey, Nate, congrats on the SEC Coach of the Year. I know you said you want to move on to the postseason now, but I remember you said you got a couple hundred texts after you won the SEC regular season championship. What was the response like? What have you heard? And maybe what was the coolest message you got since you won Coach of the Year?
It's a good question. I got, 150 texts or so. I mean, my story's a little different, right? Because I was a high school coach 8 years ago, so you get all those high school coaches that I coach with against the high school coaches I've built relationships with, because I feel like I can connect with them a little more, because that's kind of who I am. I still feel like I'm just a high school coach that got a couple breaks in life. So, and it's fun to respond back to them. It's hard to respond to everybody. So if you're listening to this and you follow this and I didn't respond to your text, I apologize. I do try to have to win some games here. So we're trying to lock into winning some games. I do remember when I was at Buffalo, we beat Arizona. I think this year I'm going to be a lot smarter. I'm going to hand my phone to like an assistant or somebody and just like get it away from me for the next 12 hours because I got blasted that night and tried not to be distracted, but it's almost impossible. So, I've been trying to be locked in, but hey, I don't know if there's one particularly cool one. I mean, it's like you hear from all kinds of different people. You hear from all the people in Buffalo you knew, all the people in Detroit, a lot of Alabama people. There was no NBA head coaches or anything texting me, if that's what you're asking. I didn't get anything like that, but it was just good to hear from all different types of people that, and you kind of give some people, some of these high school coaches love seeing us succeed because they feel like they've got a connection with me. But I like hearing from the Alabama people, like how they're behind us, how excited they are for this team. I can't wait till we can pack Coleman out next year and it's full. I think the momentum going from this year is going to keep everything going. I think the state of Alabama is fired up about Crimson Tide basketball, and I love to hear it from the people that I've gotten to know well here.
Let's go Jerry Tipton next.
Nate, in the SEC tournament, at least early on, you'll be playing against teams on the bubble, so to speak, trying to get their way into the NCAA tournament. You guys are secure and there. How do you hope to match the motivation those teams would have?
I mean, it's actually a great question. So if our only motivation was to make the NCAA tournament at the beginning of the year, then we achieved it because we're in, and we can relax and lose in the first round. But we didn't. I've never made it a point ever in coaching to say, our goal this year is to, win this number of games, win this. No, our goal is to be playing as close to we can to our full potential come the end of the season as we possibly can be. So our goal right now is to be playing the best basketball we've ever played all year. If we're playing the best basketball we've played all year, we're winning those games. So to me, it's how you frame what you're trying to do from the first practice through the end. And we never said, okay, we need to make the NCAA tournament this year. We all assumed if we did what we were supposed to be doing that we would make it. I was under that assumption the whole time. So that's great. We've made it. We won the regular season. I love to win a tournament championship. If we play well and the shots drop, and then we will. If we have an off game or shots, we could play a really good game. We just don't make shots and lose. I would be all right with that as long as we give a championship level effort, which is what we really got to get out of our guys. If we're giving that, we got to be peaking now, playing our best basketball. That's what we're looking for. So I think our guys are mature. I think they understand it. I also think, when you look at us compared to some of the other teams, not all of them, but some of them, we've got a little bit more veteran group maybe, with 4 seniors on scholarship. Well, they're not. I know everybody can come back next year, but our guys are going to graduate. Bruner's already graduated. Herb's already graduated. Reese and Petty are on track to graduate this semester. Like those guys in all likelihood will be going to play for money at some level next year. And there's a sense of urgency of finishing their senior year up with as much as they can possibly get done. So regular season championship, tournament championship, as deep as run we can make in the NCAA tournament, that's what those guys' goal is. So I think our guys will come motivated. I know those other teams will be motivated because they really want to play in the NCAA tournament. I think it's the best sporting event on the planet. I've been fortunate enough to participate in 4 of them so far. 1 as an assistant, 3 as a head coach, and I love them. I think they're the best. It's obviously going to look a little bit different this year, but it's still the NCAA tournament, and I think our guys want to be in it. Petty and Herb and Reese were all in it as freshmen. Bruner, Yale, but they want to get back. The rest of our guys want to be there, and we need to be playing our best basketball we possibly can be when we get into it.
Okay, we're going to finish up with these last 3 questions in the queue. Let's start with Jeff Spiegel first.
Hey, Nate. This isn't exactly hard-hitting journalism, but your sport code game is really on point. Tell me how important it is to you, how you look on game day, and the plaid pattern. How much of that is personal preference? How much of that is a tribute to Wimp Sanderson?
So I mean, I could go with the polo this year. I did it for the first half. I wore actually one of Wimp's that first what do we call it? Tide tip off. Yeah, I forget what we even call it here. The first one we had my first year, kind of an ode to Wimp. We're trying to get the basketball tradition, trying to get this program rolling again, like Wimp had it rolling. So we were in the Plaid Palace, so I broke out the plaid. Then I think I started with one or two. I was a suit guy most of the time, and then I got a couple sport coats and just added a couple more, and next thing you knew. And then this year, it was most guys are wearing the pullovers or the polos. Sport coat's not quite to the suit level, so it's somewhere in between. So I just rolled with the sport coats this year. It's not. I mean, it's important to look good, but that's not really what it's supposed to be about. I listened to a podcast with Buzz over the summer, and they asked if he was going to go with and he was talking about, you need to wear Sunday best. This is our one time that the country can see Texas A&M basketball like he wants, and I'm not. Buzz is his own guy, and he does a great job of a lot of things. I'm not trying to copy people, but I thought a little bit the same thing. Maybe it's, we want to come out, look sharp, look like we're here. I did have, speaking of Tex, I had an assistant from back in Romulus, Stevie Glenn. He was my assistant all 11 years back in Romulus. He texted me after, back when I was still wearing the polos, like, you need to go back to wearing suits. When I came to Romulus, they hadn't worn them before. We started wearing suits. And I think his message to me was, when you came in here, told us we're going to be the best. If you want to be the best program, you got to dress like you're in the best program, dress sharp. So he told me to put suits on. I listened to him. I went with a sport coat, not suit, but we went back with it. I've got a few of them. I'm not taking. We might have to make some repeats. I couldn't pack 9 for the whole 9 games, but we got a little bit mix of them for Nashville and Indy.
All right, let's go to Bob Holt, and then we'll finish with James Richardson. Bob, you're first.
Okay, and then I got the Packers hat here. Hope you like it.
I love it. That's old school Packers hat.
Yeah. Maybe Jerry can wave a 1950s Lions championship
I
banner.
was that would be great. It would be like the 50s. You would have to pull it out from though, right, Bob?
Yeah, you'd have to probably dust it off. But hey, you guys obviously, I think you won 7 more games than anybody except Arkansas. You and Arkansas kind of separated yourselves from the rest of the conference during the regular season, at least. Do you see you guys as the prohibitive favorite, or do you see it as kind of wide open? I mean, everybody knows Kentucky's talented. They just kind of haven't gotten it together yet. I guess what's your feeling on the competitiveness of the tournament?
I mean, obviously, us and Arkansas are 1 and 2, so people would probably be picking, us to win, I would think. But I honestly, I mean, Kentucky, I think, is playing their best basketball of the year right now. And they've got a lot of talent on that team that, they're scary. I mean, their Achilles had been they couldn't shoot it. That's why Dante Allen started playing come conference play, because they needed that shooting. Now all of a sudden you got Mintz hitting 6 threes and B.J. Boston hitting 6 threes, and that Achilles they've had is not looking so bad anymore. They look pretty good. So you look at a team like Tennessee, they've still got a lot of talent. Those freshmen are starting to play really well. Keon and Springer are playing great. Freshmen getting to this point, they're sophomores by now. They've played enough games. You look at how good Moody's playing for Arkansas. So, I mean, you can kind of go through the list. Florida's kind of come into its own. They had to deal with Keontae in the middle of the year that they had to regroup, and I think they've done a good job. There's multiple teams. I mean, you look at this league on any given night, anybody could beat anybody. So I do think it's still pretty open, even though most people, if they had to pick, I'm guessing maybe picked Arkansas. Arkansas is the hottest team in the league. We finished with the 1 seed. They finished with the 2 seed. So, we're going to have to play well to beat anybody, whether it's Mississippi State. We just played them. They gave us a everything we could handle at their place. They've got maybe, in the conversation for best backcourt in the SEC with Molinar and Stewart. So, I mean, our first game's not going to be easy, no matter which team it is. Our second game's not going to be easy. And then, obviously, if we're fortunate enough to get to Sunday, that's going to take everything we got to win that one.
All right, let's finish up here with James Richardson.
Hey, Coach, I'm with the Yale Daily News, and I was just wondering, you touched on this a little bit with this IQ, but could you talk a little bit about the impact Jordan Bruner's had both on and off the court this season?
Yeah, I mean, when we targeted Bruner as the number one grad transfer we wanted to get, there was a lot that went into it. Our style of play being one, his skill level for a big. The more and more I talk to him, the more and more I talk to people around him. Coach Jones, I've got a great relationship with Coach Jones. The more I studied his film deeper, it was even more so a fit than what I had originally thought. Everything we thought, up front before he was even in the portal, and we just knew he was going to be a grad transfer because you couldn't play in the Ivy League. He shoots it well, he handles it well, he passes it well, his skill level's high. But then when he got here, he's got a presence about him. I think he's really helped our seniors that were already here, Herb, Petty, Reese, really helped those guys along in a leadership role. And he didn't come in like, this is going to be my team. No, it was none of that. He was real smart, kind of got to know everybody, built relationships, spoke up when it was appropriate to speak up, still speaks up. His leadership's been great. I think he's been really good for Reese. Those two have gotten along well. They push each other well in practice. It could have been more of a rivalry. Certain one gets more minute, but it hasn't been like that at all. He's been a great teammate. Alex Reese has been a great teammate, back and forth both ways. So I think his skill level, his IQ, his leadership, I mean, he's a really high character young man. I can't say enough about that, because the culture that we've established here, that we were attempting to establish last year, that we've really come a long ways from when I stepped on campus here almost 2 years ago now. He's been a big part of that this summer, this fall, this year. The fact that he's pushed as hard as he's pushed to come back from having a surgery on both knees during the middle of the year, I think shows guys the work ethic. He came in, he was in the gym he found out Keon Ambrose is going at 6 a.m. every morning. So he decided he's going at 5 a.m. every morning in the fall. I mean, he's kind of set the bar a little higher all the time. Like, okay, nobody's going to outwork me. And he's kind of been that guy, as a fifth-year senior. So, he's had to be a little smarter about it with rehabbing and all that. So he's not in the gym at 5 a.m. every day now. But he was for a long time there in the fall. So I think it set a level of work ethic that we were trying to establish in this program that our guys have bought into, and he's been a big part of that too. So I can't say enough about the impact he's had. Even though he hasn't been able to play in as many games as we'd like to have him played in, he's made a huge impact, and even made an impact when he was out with just being around the team. He didn't make one road trip, and we missed him a lot. I told him that. I told him I didn't want to miss another road trip. He stayed home to get his knee rehabbed and all that after the surgery. But I told him I didn't want to miss another road trip. I mean, we missed having him around, even if he couldn't play.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.